Hello there. I'm so glad that you're joining me this afternoon. It is afternoon where I am right now because I'm at the Eureka Springs UFO conference. I've had such a wonderful time. Y'all know this is my favorite conference, basically. I love Contact because it's big, but I love this one because it's personal. And I am really excited to welcome Stephen Bassett. He is a political activist, he's a lobbyist, he is who you see pushing so hard for disclosure. But besides that, he's somebody who really believes in helping people who have information or experiences in ufology to get into the public eye. The reason that I like him so much, and I don't know if he knows this, is that the last time I was at Contact in the Desert, I was kind of a fly on a wall in the last few sessions, and you went up to somebody who did not have a lot of exposure but good information. And he told them that he wanted them to get in touch with his publicist so that their information could be disseminated and get out to more people. And when I saw that, I knew that you were somebody that just really cared about what you're trying to do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I think I've told you that before, but I just wanted to reiterate it for people that may have missed our first show.
Okay.
So when you came into this conference, there's already been a good bit of disclosure discussion. There have been congressional hearings. We have military personnel who have testified. We have people who have been researching this field and participating in it for a very long time who have testified. Somebody that has never met a person she wouldn't challenge on the subject of UFOs is Linda Moulton Howe. And she has always been a very outspoken advocate. When y'all did the first citizens hearing on disclosure, my friend Stanton was alive and participated in that too. And he's basically who educated me on the topic. So you've been involved in this for quite some time and you're very passionate. And how did you get started in this?
Absolutely. It was a decision. I hit a very critical point in my life where it was like, can't keep doing what you're doing. You got to change. Otherwise, you're going to be very unhappy.
Okay.
And ultimately, I made the right decisions. And that was one, you need to do something that you have a passion for, or it's more than just try to hang around making money. And ultimately, I realized that this issue was the thing I probably was most intrigued by. And I'd read a number of key books, what have you. And I made the decision, this is what I'm going to do. But not as a business, as an activist to serve. One of the things I didn't get as a young man is that serving, having purpose, it's a lot more gratifying than just constantly trying to figure out how you get more money, right? And play that game. I get it. You have to have that. So 30 years on now, it's still the same way. I feel like I'm serving not only the people that have been working in this field, the way I can, but also to, just the country itself, trying to get something done that's in the best interest of all. So that has made it possible to keep going these 30 years because it's not an easy ride.
Well, I'm positive of that.
Yeah. There are people in this field that have lots of money and it's a little easier ride for them. But mostly we don't have much, and most of the people that I've met over the years, no, they don't have a lot to draw on, but they do the best they can. They use their own money to do research and so forth. And the reason that is the case is because the government's embargo on this issue and all the propaganda pointing out that it's all silly and nonsense and the way they integrated the issue and so forth, the tinfoil hat stuff. And so that's not going to help you in your business life or help you, move off another race. So it undermines people's ability. But this is not unusual. Almost all activist movements, this happens. So when you go down that path, you have to accept that. If you're challenging the state, the government on something extremely important that they don't want to do, right? And that could be state governments, could be the federal government. They're going to make it hard on you. You're going to have to pay a price. In other words, you're going to have to serve. And so 30 years on, I'm still in that mode, right? And I could not possibly have kept on this for 30 years if I had not made this decision, which I could have done when I was younger. When I was a younger man and not really knowing what the hell's going on and not very happy, if I had taken a moment and said, look, you don't seem to be geared to make lots of money or play the businessman. Why not find a way to serve? I was just too immature. Because if you decide that's what you want to do, you have an unlimited number of possibilities, right? All you have to do is volunteer, all right, to serve, and that could lead to a career and what have you. But that wasn't my mindset. It took another 30 years before I finally figured out, wait a minute, how about that? Why don't you go that direction? And I never regretted it.
Ever?
Never.
That's pretty tough for anyone to be able to say.
Look, I've complained. I've been irritated. I've been mad. Yes. No, but never regretted. I've never at one time. I've had some bad times, right? A lot of pressure, tough. Never in the 30 years did I ever say, God, I wish I had maybe, I don't know, gone and tried to get another corporate job or something. Never. No, I never had that for a second. And that is so helpful. As you go through life, right? To not regret the choice that you've made. Well,
I don't know very many people that can say that. I mean, genuinely.
I agree.
There's always, because there's so many forks in the road. And I'm sure that with your passion and professionalism, you may have been approached about doing something else at some point in time too. And to have decided to stay with something that at the time was so really perceived as radical or off the wall. Other words I've heard not applied to you, it's mostly applied to me, but you're really not in this for the money, are you?
Oh, no.
I have heard that sometimes.
If I am in it for the money, boy, I need to rethink what I'm doing here. It's not working out. Look, imagine a country or a society that put a huge emphasis on people serving their community and so forth. That's out there. You see it. But imagine if it was much broader. In other words, this is the way you want to build your culture, encouraging and helping people to serve and getting that idea across in the early schooling.
Yes.
You would have a totally different country. And I think you'd have a lot happier population. But that's not what we do.
It's not.
We essentially raise kids to be
dissatisfied.
Oh, yeah. In other words, we need to raise people who are going to be the workers, going to do the jobs and help build the capitalist system, right? We don't make much effort to, some parents will do this, obviously, with their children, that's fine. But overall, the idea of really inculcating a population of people that are already, by the time they're a young adult or, approaching 20 years old, that the idea of serving is like almost built in, right? They want to do that. Could we ever change that way? I don't know. All I know is that the people that are willing to serve are the ones that step up when something's got to happen and the government doesn't want it or there's other issues. So I ended up finding that out eventually, and it's great.
Yeah. One of the things that interests me is that talking about societies as a rule, I spend time, I like to travel, and I've spent time in Scotland a bit. I just visited Belize. They're different. The cultures are so different from ours.
Sure.
And, in Scotland, which they have what we would consider socialized medicine and such as that, but they still everyone takes care of everyone. Everyone is dead proud to be Scottish. Everyone tries their best to take care of their country. And they're very much a society, a conglomerates in society. And that's something that we as Americans, I think, have been in the process of losing over the last maybe 25, 30 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, you know,
Longer than that, frankly.
yeah, I think so. I think maybe from the pre-Vietnam era to now, I think would be a good window on that to, you know, to consider anyway.
The United States is a democratic republic with a very powerful capitalistic system.
Yes.
And we've taken it to extremes.
Yes.
We've abused it,
Yes.
right? And as a result, we've warped it so that capitalism, which can be a wonderful thing, it's one of the great wealth builders. But if it's not managed properly and you don't have the proper checks and balances, it turns the society into just a bunch of workers and huge divisions of wealth and what have you. And we're suffering terribly for it. And one of the way they keep that going is that the other nations that have found a better way, they just demean them, right? Tell how awful they are, right? And it doesn't work and they're terrible and all the things that are wrong with them. We're going to have to do something pretty soon because you cannot go down this road much longer.
Well, we can't. And one of the primary things I see with that, I'm a political science major, I'm sorry. I love that kind of topic. But, you know, when you start, there's so much dissatisfaction. People, especially people that have been very, you know, or moderately comfortable, grew up with parents who worked, that everything had a little money there to have, you know, cushion with, and then all of a sudden they're out having to make their own living, and what looked easy at home without an education, a work ethic, or whatever isn't easy, and you have to kind of figure out how you're going to make your living, and then nobody's satisfied. It's very hard if you can't find a satisfaction level that works for you.
Of course. Yeah, well, kids grow up, they wherever in the world you are, the kids have to learn something that will allow them to function as adults.
I mean, I had parents that doted and grandparents that doted on me too. So I had to learn a work ethic.
Yeah, sure.
All of them had one, but I didn't have to for so long.
But a work ethic is fine. The question is a work ethic to do what? Okay. And so in a capitalistic system, it's like training you to have a work ethic to go out and make money however you have to, however you can, because you've got to pay the bills. That's fine. But then the nature of the capitalist system, is that the cost of everything just keeps going up. And so, and if the cost of being able to exist keeps going up, at the same time, the education system is really dysfunctional and falling apart, right? Under various pressures. This creates a huge problem because you've got more and more kids that really don't have enough tools to be able to pull off what you got to do in our country at a time when the need to do that is increasing because you've got to pay the bills. And so now, you know, I think George Washington University, I learned yesterday, they're the most expensive college in the country, $100,000 a year to attend there. So, okay, forget the college education. So it's just not working, right? And that's nothing to do with really the ET issue.
It's not, but it is our society. So,
but it is the society in which the disclosure process is underway. And I don't go there in regular conferences and discussions because, you know, I got to stay in my lane.
I do know.
Okay.
I do know.
But is there a way that the extraterrestrial reality and disclosure of it could impact that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. One way it could help is that if in fact we acquire extraordinary new technology, or we are able to bring out extraordinary technology that we have developed in super classified programs, and this technology impacts the fundamentals of our societies, and the one that everybody talks about. If there's a technology that can generate the energy we need at a fraction of the cost, say 4 cents on the dollar. And so instead of what costing $1 costs 4 cents, that frees up an enormous amount of money for people to be able to use to deal with their life.
Absolutely.
It takes a huge amount of need out of there. And that may give the society a time to like, okay, now I can maneuver a little bit. And so other texts like that can help deal with the issues that are crushing our society in a sense. That could have an impact. And so that could be a positive. But at the same time that's happening, we have a whole new player on the field, and that's AI. And AI is not going to, in general, make it easier for kids to be born in this world.
Absolutely.
Be raised in a family that does the best it can, and then go out and become another tax-paying part of our culture. So how is this going to play out? I don't know. I really don't know. But I know that there is a whole range of things that human society has broken. And as a result, there's consequences of that planet-wide. And things do get broken, right? It happens. It's okay. You just need to fix them. Okay.
Yes.
The car breaks down, you just fix it. But if somehow you get to a position where you can't fix things, and so the car breaks down, but you can't fix it, and so you keep driving it, but then it breaks down again until it won't go anywhere. Now you got no car, and you're stranded out in a desert road. That's kind of our society now. We're not fixing anything, and things are just breaking down, and so that's going to end badly. All right.
I agree.
And so how do you shift that and start fixing things?
Well, you don't do it with AI. Because people aren't, I feel like it's going to replace jobs. It already is.
Well, it's a tool that can fix, it's a tool that can help, but it's not, I don't see it being developed right now in service of reestablishing a more functional society. I'm not saying that. I'm saying everything else but that. And so the hope is that the disclosure of it, when the whole world finally learns they're not alone, that there's other civilizations who probably have a lot more cooler technology and know a lot of knowledge, that they're actually engaging us, that is going to change the worldview of people in a profound way. And not just people, but also leaders of nations, whatever, and allow them the first real opportunity in some time, if forever, to rethink how they are functioning on this planet. How they are ruling their people, how they are developing their finance system, to rethink it in a new perspective, and maybe start to come up with the answers that will work. Without that change of worldview, something dramatic like that, you just keep doing the same thing until finally it all goes to hell, right? Yeah. And one of the most significant things is the nuclear issue. We're heading towards a nuclear war. If we don't have something that causes a whole lot of people, particularly in power, to rethink things to the point where they realize, wait a minute, we probably shouldn't have these nukes. Now, getting rid of the nukes doesn't really help the fundamental problems that societies are facing with the inability to provide the necessary resources and so forth that people can live comfortably and function and start diminishing the conflicts that are going on. But it's something. Right. And so if this new world we're going to be in, the post-disclosure world, if that rethinking process extends to other things, we may actually turn the corner and start saying, okay, this is a huge problem. Let's fix that. That's a serious issue. Let's fix that. We cannot continue to spend trillions of dollars every year on just military defense stuff. Right, untold trillions of dollars over the last 50 years. It's unbelievable when people are starving to death.
But that's the disclosed amount. I mean, you're right. People are starving, and we've got lots of bullets.
In other words, we spend. I think we spend as much as $5 or $6 billion on an aircraft carrier, and having bases everywhere, and constantly having to defend against each other. So we have a group of 200 nations roughly, who are spending every year trillions and trillions of dollars to defend themselves possibly against any of these other nations, right? In other words, we're all at risk of attacking each other at some point, and everybody has to have all of this military defense and so forth. I understand the history of the human race kind of is a problem,
Yeah.
but that vast sum of money isn't really helping to feed, clothe, and provide lives to
And
people.
it's not going to help you win a war either if you're spending that. I mean, because you're going to have to replenish.
Well,
And all of your money's gone.
yeah, but you have wars. You have to spend billions of dollars on those wars, and then you have to go raise it again.
Mhm.
And so it is an absurd way to run a planetary civilization,
that.
and it leads to awful things. How can we stop that? How can we have the 200 countries make a decision? Let's just agree that nobody invades anybody anymore, okay? Let's agree that we'll honor basic boundaries and treaties. And once we've agreed to that, we'll start standing down this massive suck on all the economic wealth in this world. Not just the nuclear missiles issues, but also standing armies.
Yes.
Once we do that, suddenly the resources are available for people to be supported and also to protect the environment. Now, you may say, well, this is just Pollyanna stuff. There's no way it'll happen. We'll never do that. And I kind of agree, unless something really profound happens, right? And without getting into a messianic kind of place, the disclosure event and possibly the engagement of ETs in an open way in a few years is the kind of thing that could actually result in a rethinking of how not just a country is going to function, but the planet is going to function. The 200 countries are going to function. You know, you have the odd treaty here and the odd treaty there. That's not cutting it. We've really got to get serious about how 200 countries are going to live together. And hopefully this could do it. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about this. It's the only thing I can even conceive of, or that's ever been presented, that has the potential to effectuate that. Nothing else does.
Well, you know, people have tried for generations. You know, we have the United Nations. Before that, we had the League of Nations. Before that, you know, and
Didn't work.
they don't, because people aren't honorable.
They did something, but overall, in terms of what we need, not even
yeah.
close. So we got to get way past that.
We do. And, you know, another problem with that can be solved, and I don't know if it would take people of the globe feeling like disclosure or ETs coming down if we don't do disclosure and saying, hello, the aliens. I mean, you know, I don't think that, given our warlike nature as humans, are we going to be banded together against an invasion, you know, what they present or perceive as an invasion? Or
You mean of ETs?
yes. Or,
Well, if
I
the
mean,
governments
that would
want to
be-
do that,
Exactly.
and though I'm not seeing that, I'm really not. Okay?
Yes.
But people are worried, speculate about it. All I can say is, if the government comes to us and says, you know something, we're going to have to start spending a lot of money to build up a system to protect ourselves from the ETs. And my
Mhm.
response is this. One, you haven't got a chance in hell.
That's right.
Right. Secondly, they could eliminate us in a day. I mean, virtually almost everybody on the planet could be dead in a day because
It wouldn't
of
take a
what
day.
they can do. All right. And so what exactly are you getting at here?
Yeah.
What they're getting at is, oh, this is an excuse to put billions of more dollars into the defense world and the
Mhm.
military, and thus making a lot of people more wealthy, but
Mhm.
making you less wealthy.
And
so-
more endangered.
And so it's not going to fly. All right. So again, in the history of Homo sapiens sapiens, about 400,000 years, but certainly the last 15,000, we as a species have slaughtered untold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of our own kind. It's just what we do. And we're constantly threatening each other. And that's the way it is. And technically, one could make the case that's the way it will always be. Except
Well, we
that
hope not.
not exactly.
Yeah.
Right? There are two things that are trying to push back at that. One is we finally got to a technology so violent, so destructive, that it scares the hell out of everybody. And they're, you know, and I really can't even use that. So that's kind of slowed it down. We call it mutual assured destruction, but it's only going to hold up for so long.
Yes.
But nevertheless, we've got that. And then the second thing is the ET thing. You know, they've engaged us. And I believe they've engaged us for exactly that reason. In other words, y'all have been doing your thing for, 100,000 years, okay, but you can't do that anymore. And when you built those nuclear weapons and you dropped them, that was the key that told us that you definitely now going to have to change. So they actually intervened, engaged us aggressively after those bombs were dropped, almost immediately. Prior to the Hiroshima bombs, those bombs, there was not much going on at all.
Okay.
So there's a connection. And ever since, they've been doing a whole lot, really, for now 80 years. So something is going on with respect to their agenda. It's important. And I'm suggesting that at the heart of that agenda, which hopefully leads to open contact, is this. Now you have to change. And by you, meaning all of you, and certainly all of the leaders of nations, the people that are essentially running these countries, that make the decisions that usually cause most of the pain, suffering, including going to war. Now you have no choice. You must change. And so it's possible that disclosure and whatever follows will actually lead to that change, where we make treaties that cover all of these issues, start to pull back from those 15,000 years of just killing each other and slaughtering and destroying and have to rebuild, and decide, okay, we're going to go a different path. I think it's a possibility. And if that were to happen, that would be pretty cool. I mean,
That
talk
would be
about
so
cool. And so somebody says to me, well, what do you think would, get 200 nations decide, let's just stop doing this? Some very smart person that writes a really cool book, all right, or gives great speeches. I don't think so.
No,
It's going to
we
take
got
something
others.
bigger than that. It's going to take learning that actually the galaxy is filled with civilizations. We're just one of them. Others are visiting us. What are the possibilities? Wow, that's incredible. So what do you think we should do? Well, I think the first thing we should do is try not to destroy each other anymore and start listening to what maybe we may learn from these extraterrestrials. So if that is true, you and I, and I think we may be the same generation, but there are 4 generations on the planet right now, basically. And there's been approximately, I think it's 40,000 generations since Homo sapiens sapiens really kind of emerged. And we are 4 of those 40,000 generations that have happened to be alive when this takes place. And this isn't like ET showing up in ancient Egypt, whatever the hell they did back then, right?
Right.
Mostly they just hung around as gods. That was fine. This is not that. That was like, no big deal. This is something else. We have become spacefaring. We are advanced technologically, highly sophisticated. And so consequently, when the ETs engages now, it's not about, you must be gods and help us build pyramids, but rather an introduction to the galaxy itself. And that is of a scale and a level that would really cause people, even some of the people that are hell-bent on making our lives worse, to reconsider how they're going to act as leaders and so forth. And it will help the people reconsider what they're going to demand from governments. In other words, look, can't keep doing this, damn it. And we're not going to elect you, or we're not going to support that. And so this may be the most profound turning point in the history of our planet. Extraordinary things could happen rapidly that just blow your mind. And 4 generations are here to watch it. How about that? I mean, that's as good as it gets. And that's what kind of keeps me buoyant. Of course, I got to stick around a little longer, right? And I don't have a whole lot of years left. That's why I want to get this done. So I want to be able to see, I want to be aware of what's going on and watch it for a while. So that's kind of how I view things. So this is the biggest time in the history of the human race. It is a major transition point for the planet in general. The impact and effects are going to be almost impossible to fully chronicle. And that's where we landed, right? That we just happen to be here for this. And my job is to help convince enough people, including people that are in political roles, how profound it is and why they need to really embrace it and deal with it and do the right thing. And I'm not the only one. Obviously, there are plenty of people that are doing this. And it's been very hard to get in the media and the public and so forth around to that. but we're almost there. We're very close.
How long have you been lobbying for this
I've never really done much lobbying, hardly any.
discussion?
It was because I registered as a lobbyist, the only person to ever do it. The first is what got attention that allowed me to have some, influence, gravitas. And then I used that attention not to lobby Congress, which wouldn't talk to me, believe me, certainly back then,
Yeah.
but to lobby the media and engage the subject in the public arena as an activist. Okay. But a lot of people have always taken me as the UFO lobbyist. What can I say?
Well, I know you're a registered one, and I know that
I
you
still
were
am. Actually, I think my renewal, I think I missed a renewal, so I may not be registered now. So I got to renew that. But it was.
You motivated Chase Klotsky to do this.
Well, yeah, eventually
And, I
she
mean,
registered lobbyist. Yeah, sure.
I mean, and so you're bringing, that's why in the introduction of you, when I said he brings other people with him, and you do, I think that is such an important thing because, it's not and you pretty much have been waging this battle. You have supporters, but you're the one that's been, going forward. You've been the public face of
one of the public faces.
One of them. Yeah. But you've been a very vocal one.
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea to be an activist, you have to be vocal and constantly talk and drive people nuts. But it took 20 years before a second lobbyist registered. Okay, so I was the first, and I was glad to be, but it wasn't like there was a hurry, right?
Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. Somebody's got to go first. All right, and that's fine. So I put the idea out of we should have a lobbyist for this. Eventually, we had more, but it wasn't what I could do. I couldn't lobby. So what I did was simply use that as the platform on which now to do lots of other activism, and it's okay, right? It's fine. So I'm basically want to be remembered as a disclosure activist, devoted last 30, 40 years of his life to advocating for disclosure, for this confirmation that was absolutely essential if we were going to move to the next level, right? Without it, we're just going to stay where we are and continue to do stupid stuff.
Do you see any movement toward full disclosure?
God, yeah.
I mean,
tons. Lots.
What's an example?
Well, the legislation that has been passed, particularly the major bill, the UAP Disclosure Act, which eventually I think will be completed. Part of it was pushed aside for a while, and that's okay. That act is the total package that will be utilized to bring everything that the government knows and has done about this issue, the documents, the research, whatever technology they discovered, the whole thing is going to come out in an orderly way and come into the public reality. That's disclosure, right?
It is,
okay.
Yes.
But the only way that it can really get going is we have to have the other disclosure, and that's the capital D disclosure. That's my term. I came up with that. And that is the formal confirmation. Until the heads of state confirm that, yes, we're not alone, the ability to put that kind of stuff into play is extremely limited. But we have got the legislation now, and some things have come forward under the somewhat diminished act, and that's fine. But believe me, 99% of it is still back there. In order to get that, we need more than just the act. We've got to have confirmation from the head of state, which in most cases, particularly in our country, the head of state has access to everything, even in a democratic republic. In dictatorship, the head of state always has access to everything. But in our country, the head of state is the one person that has that's completely above classification. They can declassify anything and go where they want. And if somebody objects, we can send the army, right? And so once the head of state confirms it, it really means that ultimately everything can be engaged, in which case the people that have maintained the truth embargo will say, okay, look, it's been a good run. It was fun, had a good life, whatever, but now it's time to let the people know. And so capital D disclosure, I think, is about to happen, which should be confused with just regular disclosure, of which things have been sort of happening. But capital D disclosure really starts to the process of getting the information out, and then that puts us in a post-disclosure world. So yeah, we are practically there, and the most of what has helped us get there interestingly enough, has occurred in the last 5 years in a way. Most of the important stuff, the key stuff. The other side, 75 years, things were happening, but a little here, a little there. But then, like everything else, as you finally get to the end, you speed up, right? It starts to speed up,
because the spigots open.
Yeah, it was going to be that way. You constantly. It's like trying to break down a dam. You hammer on it and hammer on it for decades after decades, and finally you get a crack in it, and then another crack, and before you know it, the whole friggin' reservoir is coming at you. That's the way this is going. The break began in 17, and by 20, it was really starting to break, and then it really opens up. And so since 21, it's just been one thing after another, racing towards the end of the truth embargo, which is what we needed, what's happening. And I don't think it can be stopped now. It's like telling the water in the reservoir after the dam breaks, look, I prefer you didn't come out at this point.
Yes.
Just kind of stay there for a while. So while we kind of, exit the valley here.
Yeah.
No, once it breaks, it's coming. And that's what we're dealing with.
That's going to be so interesting because there's been so many different areas of vested interest in preventing this from happening. And I don't know, who do you think is going to be the most affected by the dam breaking?
Well, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
There are a lot of people out there that there are a lot of entities and so forth that would prefer disclosure wouldn't happen. That doesn't mean they're really doing lots of stuff to prevent it.
Right.
Okay. And that's kind of a thing that's happened. This group and that group and this industry are behind the truth embargo, and they're the ones that are forcing the government to do it. Okay. Now, the government is that's running this embargo, and those that prefer to keep it, will support that. Okay, yeah, go right on, do it. Okay. So we don't need to overcome those, like maybe the oil industry and whatever, energy industry. We don't need to overcome their ability to block this, right? We just need to get the government to end the truth embargo, and then they will have to deal with that. All right. So it's like you keep the focus up on the political resolution. There is a lot of misinformation out there about how this group and that industry and whatever will be affected by disclosure. And it's always negative. In other words, oh my God, it'll crush that industry and it'll ruin this and so forth. And all of that is propaganda designed to keep people away.
Afraid of doing it.
A realistic view of a post-disclosure world, that's not what you'll see happening. Let me give you a simple example. The number one industry that's focused on by those that are looking for the people that are maintaining, servicing this truth embargo for all these years is the energy industry. And the idea is that they know that there's technology that could emerge from disclosure that we have worked on and developed that pretty much replaces oil. And if we come up with that technology, the oil industry is finished. It's over. They're going to collapse, right? No. Yeah. Again, it's too simple. Let's broaden the perspective. If there is an energy system that could emerge post-disclosure that once put into place could in fact make energy 5 cents on the dollar, and you don't need oil anymore, one, it's going to take a substantial amount of time to build all of those systems out. They're going to cost trillions of dollars, okay? And the energy industry will probably end up being the ones that are building it, right? So they'll invest in it. So they'll make plenty of money there. Meanwhile, they'll have a decent amount of time to start shifting down, providing the necessary oil for the energy needs as they slowly start shifting the other way. And eventually, they won't need to do that anymore. And of course, they already have tons of money to begin with. And so, but the new energy system, this extraordinary paradigm shift in energy creation, which could transform the world, is going to open up all manner of new businesses and other developments that otherwise couldn't be done because energy is too expensive. And the energy industry that has all that money and still has a lot of money is going to invest in these new things, and they're going to be just fine. Okay.
Well, of course they will. I mean, because it's a long-term strategy. They're going to be planning to do that.
Well,
I mean,
sure.
as this conversation is evolving, they're probably already positioning themselves to do that.
Yeah, look, if you run an energy company, it's not like you can't go out and read the books and figure out there's ETs here, or just watch the news. And so, and this is true of pretty much every area that you look at. All of these predictions are not really based on enough perspective. And it's pretty much serviced by the fact that people are really angry that this embargo is in place, and they're really mad at anybody that could be maintaining it. And so the oil industries could have a motive, therefore they must be behind it. I get it. That's the kind of stuff that an embargo on the truth itself will create.
It is.
So how can I see? What was that last question you asked?
That the oil industry, the people that are in position
Are aware of it. Yes.
but they would be, they're already positioning.
So
They would have to be because they're forward thinkers.
all of the major institutions
Okay.
with great resources and influence, unless they're deaf, dumb, and blind, clearly have been aware of this for a long time. Okay. Remember, the Roswell crash was 80 years ago. They've had plenty of time to decide how they're going to deal with this when it comes. And I'm just not worried about them, which why it bugs me when everybody's thinking, there's no way you can do it because they're going to stop it. No,
because we're going to get so much better. I mean, I'm sorry. I think that the world will be so much better when we're not using, when kids love this technology. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're coming into people's homes using the airwaves, basically. So, if we can do that with communications, and we know that there are ways to do that with energy, then I don't think my kids' generation is going to be as intimidated as my generation is.
Intimidated by what?
By the thought of having to, learn new technology, to changing what's a comfortable. Yeah, I get in my car.
Oh yeah,
I turn it on. I drive down the road.
In our country, but there are other countries that are not as advanced as we are. They have different concerns.
That's true.
Right?
Yes.
So this is a global thing, right? This change has got to be able to impact and improve not only the lives of every person on this planet and every one of the countries, but also the impact on the environment, because these things are now connected, right? The dilemmas that humans are facing, right, are resulting in extreme damage to the environment, which of course is going to affect the future of everyone. And so both of those have to be fixed. But in terms of the industries that might be impacted, I think what I'm saying is they're really not that worried about it, but maybe they're happy to think that we should worry about it, or that they are worried. No. So I think that those that are running these industries that could be impacted are smart enough to understand, no, we're going to be fine. All right. Now, are they actively helping the truth embargo and the truth embargo? Yes. Are those industries handing out large sums of money to the disclosure movement and the activist movement? No, they're not doing that. Okay. And the reason is simple. Yeah, even if they calculate the disclosure might help them, they're not going to start funding activism and anger the government, right? That has all of this power over them in terms of, regulatory and so forth. And so it's like what these industries are doing is sitting there and saying, okay, we kind of know what's coming. It's going to be fine. When it comes, and then we'll deal with it. So there is one focus needed to end the truth embargo. And that is simply the willingness of the executive of the United States to not formally challenge and address the truth embargo that was created years ago and has continued to exist. And no president to this date has been even willing to acknowledge it. Okay. There have been a couple of very limited attempts to maybe engage it. And so the whole point of the truth embargo is if you can get the president to confirm it everything follows after that. It just kind of follows after that. And you don't need to do much more than that. Oh, I say that. In other words, you don't have to convince every single person in the Pentagon or the CIA, oh, yeah, this is the thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to get the president to confirm, and it just ripples down through the government, and things start moving in the right direction. That's where the focus has to be. And that's why I try to get people to focus on that and not be raging against, some energy company somewhere.
Do you feel like, I mean, is this going to have to begin in the United States?
No, it doesn't have to, but it works out that it will.
Yeah.
And that's a result of the history of these things. The ET issue becomes a matter when the Roswell crash takes place, shortly after we dropped the bombs in Japan, which is what I think triggered the ET engagement expanding. So there's like a connection there. Okay. And so it's all kind of tied together. So the arms race has been a major issue. We have to deal with that. And so the ET presence apparently is interested in that. And so, give me that question again. I know you're going to be able to edit.
Does it need to begin with our American president?
Yes, that was the question. By the way, I'm very tired.
I understand that. It's been a long week. And I appreciate your time because I know you're tired. But, well, let me ask you.
Now, again, give me the question again.
Is the truth embargoes breaking going to have to start with the American president?
Exactly. Okay. I'm starting to worry about myself.
That's all right. I just found out I have it already.
It's going to be it's likely going to be the United States that breaks it for a reason. After once the Cold War gets underway, the need to embargo this issue was pretty evident to the presidents, right? We can't go there. The world is getting very dangerous. We're going to have to deal with this nuclear arms race. It's going to be awful, and so we're gonna keep that embargoed, and we'll deal with it later, right? It's too dangerous. Okay, so to the extent that other nations figured this out, and I'm sure they did, right? Again, they actually put out a press release for Roswell when they had the craft, and so as the other nations in the democratic world, right, start to figure this out, whether it's the UK or Canada, Australia, France, Italy, what have you, I think their position, the heads of state of those nations, was like, look, the United States is going to be the fundamental bulwark between us and the dictatorships, right? In which case the big one was the Soviet Union at that time, eventually had China. And only they can protect us against the nuclear arms race that's going on, right? Most of them wouldn't get nukes for a long time. There's still only 9. And therefore, this is a major issue. The U.S. government wants to contain. We're fine. We will defer to your judgment on this. Also, we were the major economic power post World War II. And so it's like, no, the United States needs to lead on this. And that has been the case. They have deferred to us for 80 years. No head of state in any of these other countries, in the democratic world, I should say, has tried to cut in line. A couple little small nations did something, but it wasn't a big deal. So you might say, okay, but what about the Soviet Union and communist China? Why did they not just step in front of this and take that away from us and be the nation that announces to the world we're not alone? The only explanation I have for that is that these are dictatorships. They're ideological control states. And the way those countries operate is the leadership demands fealty to the state, to the leader, right, to the party line, so forth. And they do not want you deviating from that. In other words, they need that control. And they're able to conduct that kind of a government. Telling everybody in their country that, hey, they're not alone. We got ETs here. They're from another galaxy. They don't really know about our party line. They don't even know who our leader is. It's like you're really undermining your control. with those countries. And I
can
believe the
see that.
Soviet Union made that decision. No way, we're not coming forward on this. And that decision still holds even after the Soviet Union broke up, and you had the new Russia Republic. But overall, it didn't take long for the new Russia to sort of start sliding back in that area.
Yes, they did it
China
very
is still
quickly.
there. So you take them out of the picture. And what country is going to be the one that cuts in line, right? Ghana, South Africa, I don't think so.
No.
And so that is what has maintained this American-focused historical process. But one of the things that I say now often when I do my interviews is that that's kind of not the way it is anymore. In other words, right now, I don't think it's a problem for one of these other countries like Canada or Britain or France, certainly any of the nuke nations, right? Yeah. To say, okay, I think it's time for the people to know this, and the head of state walks out and confirms it. Or, given the circumstances, I don't know if Russia, Putin, or others would really matter that much. It's a different world.
It is a very different
The
world.
ability to control people is changed because now you've got an internet where everybody's talking to everybody else. And it's really much more difficult to control information flow. You try to do the best you can, but it's not like, in other words, they've gotten used to the fact that, hey, well, how we're going to manage our little dictatorship or our controlled state, we're going to have to be a little more flexible because the world is communicating all the time. And so what the hell? Let's confirm the ET presence. Look at the legacy that I'll get.
Yes.
So Xi Jinping could go, hey, we've got 1.5 billion people.
I had half expected him to already do that.
We're an ancient civilization, one of the most ancient on the planet. We have this great history. We've got 1.3 billion people. I should disclose it, right? Bring the glory to China, right? And the great leader of China, or Putin. He is constantly concerned with the fact that the great Soviet Union was diminished. It was reduced by 14 republics and still the largest land country on the planet. And it's just not getting any respect. He's so angry about that he spent billions of dollars invading a country in order to get more back of that legacy.
And there was almost, relatively speaking, for almost nothing. It's not that much land.
No, it hasn't gotten much at all. And so I'm thinking he might go, look, why shouldn't I be the disclosure head of state, right?
Yes.
And bring that glory to the new Russia. Why not? And so I'm putting that message out that hopefully somebody will take it to the president, our president, and going, Mr. President, are you certain that Xi Jinping might not do this or Putin might not do this? Because if that happens, boy, we are in a tough spot. Because one, the legacy that would come from that, we just lost that. You just lost that.
And the potential relationship goes with ETs.
Well, I can't speak to that. I don't know if ETs care who starts it, right? I think they have a bigger agenda.
Yeah. If it were me, and I've been sitting there waiting patiently, I've planned it for a while, waiting on somebody to say something, right? I think I would team up with the people that acknowledged me.
I wouldn't worry about that. They are engaging this planet, not a particular country. They're coming from a very much more high level presence or place.
Well, do you have?
But let me just finish that one point.
Okay, you go.
But the other, and this is the reason why I keep getting this out, because the other message is pretty straightforward. It's not just that America loses the legacy. The president loses the legacy. It's gone, right? The Nobel Prize, it probably comes with that. That's gone. And then you know what replaces it? Millions of Americans screaming at the White House, how is it possible that we just got told this by Xi Jinping? He is now confirmed we're not alone. Yes. Why didn't we get it from you? That is not a good place to be.
That's not going to be a good
place. And so I want that message to kind of get in the White House in case he goes, wait a minute, you're right. That's not a good thing. I got to be the first disclosure, head of state. And that's how activism works. Yes. You just kind of seed an ID.
Well,
and
that's
a
good thing.
I'm
sorry. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
And President Trump, I don't even think you're going to
you
see
just
this,
heard
but
it again.
if you do,
just heard it again.
You have got to get this out.
Now, if
Got
I
to
could
get
get on one of those huge podcasts, like Joe Rogan,
Mhm.
right? Or
Have you been on Joe Rogan?
no, I have not yet. He got so
Joe
big,
Rogan, what are you thinking? Seriously.
and he's so big now that, like, you got to be, you got to be the Pope to get on there.
The Pope
So,
hasn't
but if
even
I
been
could
on
get on
there.
it's more likely that fundamental message, which nobody else is saying, and nobody else is doing this. I've never seen anybody go on a podcast and talk this way, but I'm the activist. Okay, that's my job. Then it might just get to the president, and I think it's a pretty simple equation. If I'm the president, wait a minute. I can, and Chris Mellon just wrote about this. He's one of the people that came out in the To the Stars Academy. He wrote something along the lines of that the head of state that actually does the confirms this to the world and backs it up with the fact that they are the head of state and they can declassify everything, will have committed probably the single most important act any head of state in history. And so I'm thinking the president in our White House right now is going, I could do the most important act that any head of state in history. And am I the kind of person that might want to do that?
You think?
Right? Yeah.
I think you've got to build an opportunity.
Absolutely. And glory to be him if he does. Okay. Fantastic. This is a nonpartisan issue.
It is a
transcends
nonpartisan
politics. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. It's my office is 2 blocks from the White House. I mean, any day I could just walk down there, stand in front of that big fence and and I could legally do this and just scream at the White House, Mr. President, you have the greatest legacy in history on your desk. Do it. Disclose ET presence, and people are looking at me kind of funny. And then I just quietly leave and go back to my office. And the next day I come out and do it again. And pretty soon there's going to be a news article about this crazy guy that keeps screaming at the White House through the fence. Because you can't stop me from doing that and upsetting the tourists about the fact that the president has this unbelievable opportunity.
Yes, and as long as you're not touching anyone, you can't get in trouble for it.
And there are people that would have done this. There are people that think that way that would go there. It might even work, but it's not who I am. I just can't bring myself to go to that place. And I hope I haven't made a mistake by not be willing to make a fool of myself, because making a fool of yourself does have activist outcomes. It can be a tool. It can be a tool.
You have to make sure that there's going to be somebody who sees you doing that and will publicize it.
Well, that's why you're standing in front of the White screaming like an idiot, and you attract attention. In other words, there's a lot of ways to attract attention to what you're doing. And a lot of activist movements have taken that route, and they do really crazy shit.
I don't think they keep much integrity when they do that, though.
Well, that is the downside. And so they attract the attention like that, but also it undermines their credibility. And so it doesn't work. There have been some instances, though, where doing kind of wild and crazy things, but in a really right way, know what you're doing, that's attracted attention that you then converted to getting some change. But this issue is so huge, and the government's involvement is so massive, and the implication is so great, that taking the wild, crazy person approach, I've always felt probably a mistake.
I would agree with that.
But we're so close now that maybe that's just what it takes to close it. But so I'm not going to do it.
If you go to do that, I want a phone call first and time to get to DC.
I once met an actress whose name escapes me now, and it's probably I don't want to mention it because it wouldn't be appropriate. But she's an actress. I think she's still working. She's very good too. She's in some big movies. And I happened to meet her. She was kind of an activist, and I learned her story. She was part of a movement. I think it was the environment. I think it was an environmental movement, without question. And so what she did, as a thing, something was going on. There was a group that was kind of pushing the issue. Is she chained herself to the White House fence, the thing, okay?
Okay.
And other number of people have done this. But and they've got people that come out fast. You handcuff yourself to that fence, and somebody's going to be there with a hacksaw so fast you can't imagine. But they had a double chain kind of thingy. Then she had this huge sleeve, plastic thing. It was like one of those pipes, plastic pipes.
Okay.
It goes all the way down here. It's locked in. Very difficult to get off. The whole thing was covered with grease. so that when you try to work with it, you're sliding off. And so the idea was to make it as hard as possible for the people that come out to deal with this, to get you unhooked. And they weren't going to cut your arm off. And so the idea was to get the maximum time chained to the fence. Okay.
That's hilarious.
Now that is a kind of activism. It's a little wild, a little crazy. But I admired it. I said, that's pretty cool. All right.
I mean, that's commitment.
Yeah. So I'm not going to chain myself to the White House fence. I don't know why.
I can't see that happening.
It's just not who I am. I'm really, I'm not somebody that likes to make a fool of himself on purpose, because you do it enough accidentally.
Yes, I do it a lot.
So hopefully I haven't held back the movement by not being willing to throw myself, under the bus.
I think that that's completely not you. I really do think that's completely.
You remember the
you.
Chicago 7?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That their way of challenging the war was to do incredibly crazy things.
I do.
I don't know if it helped or not.
I don't think so.
But and it didn't end well for some of them, to be honest with you. But I got what they were doing, right? And they did attract a great deal of attention. But there's also a negative there, and it maybe just balances out.
Well, I think that everything balances, and I really do think that for every yin there's a yang, in everything. But I think that what you're doing, and the way you're doing it, because you're very professional, is but if you ever do chain yourself to the gate,
you'll be one that comes out and says, look, no, I think it's a great thing that he did. He's a good guy. He's a wonderful person. Don't throw shade on him. Yeah. By the way, there's another thing. If you care about the outcome, and you want to help there, if you want to be serving in the post-disclosure world, or in the post whatever that you're trying to achieve, and you go that route, it kind of precludes you from that. I'm the crazy person. I help get it done. Now we have to deal with this new era, and you're not going to be on the list of people. You're sacrificing your ability to deal with that, and that's really important to me. The ability to function in a post-disclosure world. So,
that's why you're fighting so hard, because you believe in that, and you want to see what's going to come of that.
Of course, but I'd like to be able to be part of it too, because the activism will shift post-disclosure in a very profound way. It goes from trying to get the government to tell us something, to try to ensure the government doesn't abuse this paradigm shift to serve the same bad policies and bad behavior, and just take us to the same place again, right? Everything is still the same. Everything is falling apart. But there's ETs here. There's ETs here, and the government says so. What good is that?
Well, right? It's no good whatsoever. I mean, I feel like the whole purpose between ET interaction is to help us. I mean, I don't think that we're pets. I think that they want us to be the society that we can be, and to be something that will be in a position emotionally, but also morally and behavior-wise, I think it will matter in order to participate in a galactic community.
Let's hope their intentions are good and even broad. And they really want to advance us, help us, and not just over a long period of time. There is an analogy to this that's more clear. In the scientific world, you also have paradigm shifts, right? A paradigm shift in understanding. This is more of a paradigm shift in worldview, perspective about what's going on. But the scientific paradigm shift is also a big thing. And so the idea that you have a breakthrough in science, it gives you a whole new understanding of certain aspects of the physical world. And then you go, okay, we've done that, but now let's move on and do something else and not take advantage of that and use it, right? That would be nuts. That would be crazy. So this is kind of like that. What happens in scientific paradigm shifts is that you learn a profound new amount about the nature of reality. And with that new information, you go back to all of the things that you couldn't quite understand but didn't have that additional information, and you solve those issues and advance those forward. And science just moves forward, and that's great. And we understand that, and nobody objects. Now, in this, what we're dealing with is a paradigm shift in understanding and worldview and perspective of who we are in the world and so forth. And what we have to do is, and this is the analogy, is take that new perspective and go back and revisit all of the stuff that we are not able to deal with or we're doing wrong, and change that so that we're not doing that anymore. Obviously, that is going to be the challenge of the post-disclosure world, and it's going to have to be embraced by all countries and all people, one degree or another, which will be doable because the barrier to engage it is kind of down, right? Everybody knows they're here, this is real, and they're really interested and all psyched up. And so the idea that you can get a lot of people and organizations addressing that is going to be a lot easier than starting in 1947 to try to get the government to announce, hey, yeah, we got some ETs there. And so that's when the fun begins. That's when the real action starts, where amazing things could happen in a short amount of time. For instance, imagine if post-disclosure, and then we had open contact, maybe a year later, and that is some correspondence going in there where the ETs are actually conveying certain things to humans, leadership, what have you. And then about 6 months after that, all of a sudden, all of the nine nuke nations decided we're going to have a major summit, all of us. And those 9 and any others that secretly have them, we don't know it, whatever. Right. We have this major summit, and they sit down and in a short amount of time come to agreement, we are going to get rid of the nukes. We're going to get rid of all of them, right? In short order and in appropriate fashion. We're going to finally denuclearize a weapon, denuclearized weapon in this world.
Boy, there's going to be some tight stinkers when they start doing that because they won't trust each other.
But the point is that the worldview changes, put in a place where they reconsider. Now imagine the other 8 billion some people learning that finally the nations that have these nukes are decided, look, we're going to settle some differences with violence in the future. It's not going to be with nukes. But more importantly, if we're able to get rid of the nukes, the ability to address other issues and conventional weapons is obviously going to be advanced. You know, everybody's going to take a sigh of relief. All around the world, people go, oh, finally, thank God, we can get out of that. That's big stuff.
That is huge.
You know, and I'm going to be around when that happens.
I think that's probably, the energy thing is great. I think that it'll be like a liberation, because nukes have been, since I was a kid, nukes have been held over our heads. I mean, since their creation. And I can't even imagine the proliferation has been bad enough. I think that the removal is going to take a lot of verification for people to be able to rest well at night. But I think that it's worth the effort.
That's why you have the summit and the treaty, right? And you agree to the verifications. You agree to whatever the hell is needed to get it done.
Whatever it takes.
And you don't want to waste any time.
Whatever it takes.
So the entire world, though it took a while for, I think, most of the people on the planet to finally get the picture, has been living under mutual assured destruction. The possibility that a nuclear war could break out at any time for most of the last 80 years. That's 3 generations, okay? Almost 4 generations, rather 4 generations. We nearly had a nuclear war in the Cuban Missile Crisis. We had some other close calls. It's constantly, comes up. Can you imagine the total impact on the human psyche of all of these billions of people for 80 years that have had to live under that, right? You can put it away for a while and go about your business, but there's always something that brings it back, and you're reminded, right? And you're thinking, hell, my grandchildren may not have a world to live in. It all could blow up tomorrow.
And that's a realistic worry.
Absolutely. I mean, and so who knows the sum total of the impact on people and their ability to function and lead a proper life? No. And so in a sense, we all have PTSD, all 8 billion of us, of some degree or another, caused by the nuclear threat that could be eliminated in a short amount of time. And so that's gone. Now, it sounds a little outlandish, but the idea that 8 billion people in a short order could have a significant change in the level of anxiety that they deal with and be able to take a breath and realize, okay, now we're a lot safer. That seems like something that could, it's hard to imagine
I don't
that.
see a negative to that.
But it could happen. It could literally happen. And if somebody knows nothing and they're not going to be affected, fine. But let me tell you, the vast majority of people on this planet are having to deal with the angst of knowing that there may not be any future at all, which is why there is an insatiable need on huge numbers of people to constantly read books, but mostly see movies and series about the apocalypse. Mm-hmm. The apocalypse is one of the go-to areas to create sci-fi, mm-hmm. because we just can't get enough of it. There's been over 200 episodes of the Walking Dead series. There've been 3 different Walking Dead series of a zombie apocalypse, right? Mm-hmm. Where people are living, everything is ruined. And there's been others, and The Last of Us, and on, and apocalyptic movies. And we just can't get enough of them. Why? Why do humans?
We're studying for the future.
In a sense,
we're studying.
We know that can happen. And it's like, wow. And so you want to show me what the apocalypse is? Oh, I want to see it, right?
I need to know what they're doing. I need to know how to do the zombie walk.
Exactly. It's like a learning thing,
it
right?
Is.
Oh, okay. So I watched 200 Walking Dead shows. And so if we have a nuclear war and I survive it, and now we're having to just live, in siphon gas or whatever, without the zombies, I've got some skills. I kind of know what to do and what not to do, right? How to get by, how to survive, mm-hmm. build some sort of encampment in the woods. And it's kind of a joke, but there is something there.
It's not funny.
And I got to believe that if we haven't been living under mutual assured destruction by nukes for the last 80 years, our entire life, we would go, why are you showing me all these apocalyptic mm-hmm. movies? It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's almost obscene. Get rid of that stuff.
Well, I'm going to venture to say here that it is obscene, because one of the things my dad was a Special Forces Green Beret, was in Berlin during the Berlin process, did all this stuff.
All right.
And then became the biggest pacifist I knew.
That often happens.
Yes. And I was born in 1961, and he was in his 20s at that time, mid-20s. And so, I got used to watching him jump out of perfectly good aircraft. I went and watched them train and stuff. Yeah, because he was National Guard at that point.
Okay.
He'd already come home and was dropped down to National Guard.
He comes up to the star and says, "Cat, look, I'm going to be jumping out of a plane. Would you like to see Daddy jump out of a plane?" He's not considering what happens.
Yes.
If things don't go well. That's going to be one you're going to carry with you for a whole lifetime.
Mates broke a leg coming out.
That's not.
And I was like, well, it was when you're like 2nd grade.
Oh, okay.
And I was, because he's writhing around and stuff, right? But on the plus side, when I got older and, we went to Destin and did the parasail thing, my landing was better.
Okay, you've done that, right?
Yeah, parasailing.
I've always thought I could at least skydive once, and somehow I managed not to do that. Okay.
Well, I would not literally skydive.
Oh, you haven't done that?
No, I would not do that.
Right.
Because A, you're trusting a pilot you don't know, and B, you're trusting somebody else to effect your chute. No.
But to jump back to where you were,
yes.
I can't imagine how somebody could go to one of these proxy wars, and you know the ones I'm talking about.
I do.
And all the hell they go through and not come back to the U.S. and immediately join a pacifist organization. But whatever.
I don't know how anybody that has been in active, well, not even active combat, on the fringe of active combat, whether from a medical side or whatever you're doing, because, Army medics are soldiers too.
Of course.
And
my father he was in the medical corps, in the Army, a Navy rather. And he was at Guadalcanal.
Wow.
He never talked about it, ever.
Bet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, go ahead.
But, I don't know how anybody can be watching what happens to human bodies in wartime, or even 9/11, or any type of negative action, how anybody can think that continuing this behavior
Sure.
helps anybody at all. And if
But-
we can find a way around that,
Well, we're
we
going to have to.
We have to.
But the reason they don't all come back and join the pacifist organization is because the governments, pretty much all governments, but it's the big ones, right? They invest a lot in conditioning our kids
That's
to
true.
do it, right? And so they're literally conditioned,
Mhm.
right, to go. And when they come back, they're going to condition them to to appreciate what they did, and so that's fine, and maybe be ready to do it again. And so war is a business, it's a racket,
It
as
is a
Butler
business.
said, and the governments need to service that business and keep it going. And it's all part of the fact that we have not evolved to a place where we can function on this planet without the ancient behaviors that are instilled in us from evolution itself. We now can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go out and fight with sticks and stones,
Yes.
5,000 years ago, it's not going to be that bad. But once we developed the nukes, we had to give that up. And you're trying to give up a pattern of behavior that's like a couple of 100,000 years old. It's a challenge, okay? And so that is a logical reason why ETs, who understand that this is how things go, right? Everybody evolves that same way. I mean, all life's got to evolve that way. It's violent, right? You have to be violent to do it. And at some point, though, you have to stop. Once you get to the nuke, you got to stop. And so we got to the nukes, and all of a sudden they start showing up. So I think that one of the key reasons that they're showing up, there may be multiple reasons, is that, okay, you're going to have to finally give up this approach to existence and this behavior. And we know from experience that it is really hard, and you're probably not going to succeed. And so we're going to assist. We're going to assist here. We're going to come in and be able to get the job done or help you get the job done. That is a logic to me that I like. And when they turn off our nukes, which they have a number of occasions, kind of services
They're
that
very
idea.
good at that.
Oh, they can do it anytime they want.
Yes.
They've done it here. They did it in the Soviet Union. That's making a pretty important point that this is not something you want. So in a post-disclosure world, and they're not going to follow, a post-open contact world, they're not going to follow up on that.
Right.
By the way, now that we're talking, you know how we turned off all those nukes all the time? There was a reason for that. Let me explain you that reason, okay? You got to take a different path now, all right? If you want to be around for a long time and maybe enjoy cruising the galaxy or whatever the hell, you're going to have to make some changes. Fine. We need all the help we can get. Now, this is a fairly optimistic projection, and I tend to be overly optimistic to a fault. But there is enough evidence to support it. For instance, they keep telepathically telling or showing contactees this future that's coming is going to be really awful, implying it's a nuclear destruction.
Apocalyptic.
Yeah. But they even go further than that. And this has not been fully explored enough. But we do know of two absolutely established instances, but there's clearly been others. And some researchers have identified some others. Westfall and Rua, Zimbabwe. A craft lands right next to a schoolyard full of kids. ETs get out of the craft and just stand there. Not surprisingly, the kids are pretty intrigued by this. And even if they're not, they could telepathically kind of say, look, you need to come over here. So the kids all come and they're gathering, they're out. And then they start giving these kids the same message. They're not giving them the ball scores, right, from yesterday or the soccer results. They're giving them messages like terrible things are coming. Destruction is coming, right? And I think there's an implication it's a nuclear war kind of stuff. And then they go and they just leave. And then the kids carry this forward in their lives. Now, why they do this is not clear, but they are seeding this. And they did it in Rua, they did it in Zimbabwe, they've done it other. Now, why are they doing this? Well, one explanation would be, well, these people are going to get the picture and they're going to grow up and they're going to run things and they're going to help us move forward. That's possible, but it doesn't quite explain it. It does explain this, though. this event that we're doing, which is very profound, very raw, real, about we're just giving the message to the kids, is eventually going to be researched. It's going to be found out. John Mack is going to come along and research it and then give that information out. And so what are we learning down the line, years later? Now, and some of these kids, they have a tough time because of this, but the ETs have a larger agenda. We start learning about this. It has big impact. The Ruha event has been researched. It's been documented. There's been a documentary out, and it sends a huge message. So the message wasn't given just to the kids, so maybe one day they could spread it. The act of doing it becomes a big thing years later, where we learn that they gave the message to those kids and what it was to get our attention to that message. Meaning, that's our way of seeding this thing, so that eventually you're going to start finding out that this is what you are facing, and you've got to do something about it. It's the same thing when they give these messages to the contactees that come on the ship, and then they do whatever they do, and then they give them these messages about how things are going to go to hell. It's going to be this apocalypse, and what, just to really upset them, they have to carry that around the rest of their life? No. Or that they're going to go back and become a major activist in the field? No. But one day, the research, as we get into it, we're going to learn about this. We're going to discover they've been doing that, and that research is going to be written up in books by Hopkins and Jacobs and Stryver.
Yeah.
And that then becomes a very big message to everybody. Why are they doing that? What's the point of that? And so that makes sense to me. And so if that is true, then this is clearly a major part of their agenda. And I am dying to find out if they follow up on this post-disclosure or open contact, right? Open contact. That's the first question that needs to be asked by anybody that finally gets a formal communication from the extraterrestrials, meaning, okay, we want to talk to you now. I don't know, it's going to be on radio, what the hell it is. I know, what's on your mind? And the first question should be, why were you putting those apocalyptic messages into kids' minds and contactee minds? What is that about? What's the agenda there? Would be the first question. And boy, the answer to that question could change the world.
What do you think the answer would be?
The answer is, I believe the answer is this. We've been around, we know a lot, seen a lot. What you're going through, know that, been there, done that, whatever. And not surprisingly, because I don't think this is a surprise, we actually have a certain appreciation for, respect for other civilizations and other life planets, right? Like we have a respect for life, right? My God, dogs get an unbelievable amount of respect for being dogs, right? We love these dogs. And so they have a respect for that. And the idea of it just destroying itself, and turning themselves, going back to the Stone Age or whatever, this is not something we like. We don't think that should happen. And so we intervene when civilizations reach that point, right? Now, other ET civilizations may not care, but there are some that do, and they're the ones that show up, all right? And so this would be a follow through of that. We do not want to see you destroy yourselves because you just don't know enough or understand enough, or you can't finally leave behind your origin stories and what made you, and go to a new place. So we come in to help, right? And he said, well, why do you want to do it? Because we care. Call it care, call it whatever. We care about you in the sense that you are an advanced technological civilization, sentient like us, right? And if you destroy yourselves, you won't be able to go to where we've gone and be able to do what we do. And we would, it's the same as an adult that wants to intervene in a child's life who is clearly about to take himself pretty much off the take himself out, right, and say, look, I need to help this kid. He should be able to grow up and have a life. And so I'm going to intervene because I care about this kid, even if, it's not their kid, right? This, I think, is built into
I agree.
sentient beings. I think it's fundamental. And so again, that's why I feel, I lean that way. I think it's, we'd better hope that is core. Now, they may need some of our DNA. They may need to create some hybrids or whatever. And that's a little awkward. Not the best thing, but that's what they need.
Yeah.
They're not doing it to everybody. And that's part of it too, right? But that's small compared to the big issue, which is we have to intervene. Is that what's going on? And a lot of people get this now. They get it in a basic level.
Right.
And the way they express it, their sense of this intervention thing, is, we're going to launch those nukes. Everybody knows we're going to launch those nukes. We've had them. We're dying to use them. But when we do, the ETs will intervene and shut them down. Turn them into just a bob of metal that falls to the earth and doesn't do any damage. And I appreciate that sentiment. It is a form of intervention.
It is a form of intervention. It's not a likely form of intervention.
It's not a guarantee.
I mean, because lessons not learned, behaviors that should have lessons that you don't get to learn from get repeated.
Right. It's just a little, in other words, if we have open contact, they choose to intervene in the way that we discussed, that'll happen. But if we launch the missiles, that's a very different circumstance.
Yes.
And the question, would they intervene at that point? Now, if they did and shut them down, well, that would be pretty much a profound thing, and their presence now would be absolutely known. And then what happens, right? They've shut them down. We saved your ass, and so now you're going to listen to us. All right, and you're going to make some changes. It could go that way, but you can't risk it.
It would not necessarily go that way with the first launch.
Who knows? Who knows?
Because they would have to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't have any idea what capabilities they actually have. I know that with Minot and some of the other places, these things have been stopped. But
Whoa.
turned off.
Oh, the turnoffs. Yeah, we know that they've done
we know
that.
that's happened.
Okay, that's one
But
thing.
I don't think that, if we actively launch, if somebody actively launches with animosity, and would we at that point have gotten so out of control that we needed to learn that lesson?
I know.
Or are they going to intervene and smack our heads and say, you're going to have to listen to us from this point? Because you lose the, there's the hard way and there's the easy way, right? Right.
Some
So
people
far,
have
we've
to
seen easy.
get their lessons in life the hard way and then say, I won't do that again. But this, of course, is a big deal. So the process is underway now. Disclosure, right? So now the issue is completely out and the information is coming forward, whereupon open contact would be far less disruptive, obviously. Oh, you mean we're talking to ETs now? Okay, that's cool. That's pretty safe. And then the decision is they may then discuss what we have to do. It's safe. The other option is not safe. In other words, if you're saying, look, we're going to keep these nukes, we're not making any changes, and if we launch them, that's our business. And then we'll just hope that, maybe you'll intervene then, unless they don't. And so that is a far riskier approach.
Absolutely.
And it bothers me because here's what bothers me, is that anybody that goes there, it's like, they'll turn them off. That is one person is no longer really interested in advancing the disposal process.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't care. We're going to be fine. And if we do have a nuclear war, they'll intervene and then we'll just continue on. Well, they're not helping. And so I don't want that meme out there. I don't want people to start seizing that. It is foolish.
Well, because, I agree with you that but we have to evolve to the point that we're willing to say, we can't have these. And it's so that trust factor is so huge because,
But the key word is evolve. You see, In other words, we invented nuclear weapons.
Mhm.
Now we need to evolve to a place where we won't use them. Unfortunately,
Right.
that takes some time,
Right.
and they could be used at any moment. And so I'm afraid something in another way has to happen, right?
Yes.
So
That's why I think that the intervention is going to be the only way to prevent that.
that's true. You have lots of instances in just human existence where something happens to a person,
Mhm.
and given enough time, they could come to reconcile it or deal with it. But the fact is that it's going to crush them, destroy them before they could possibly do that. And that's when other humans intervene to help them get through it, right? So that it doesn't destroy them.
Yes.
And we not only created nuclear weapons, we used them.
Mhm.
We also tested them hundreds and hundreds of times. I forget how many, 2,000 tests, creating all kinds of mutations and virtually a cancer epidemic in the United States and elsewhere, but certainly, and you can actually see the correspondent.
Well,
So-
you can, because, I'm sorry.
No.
I went to the nuclear museum,
I
the
did
Atomic
too.
Museum,
I've been there.
and I found it so fascinating because what we get told and what we've been taught is nothing like reality.
Of course not.
And, Stanton Friedman was part of that process of developing that. And the difference, I really was lucky that he was a friend and would talk to me and educate me on things and stuff like that. But the things that he would say, like when they were testing, and, the guys would just duck the wave and then brush each other off.
Oh, in
to
the
get to-
initial stuff,
Yeah.
they're just,
we were
well, I
supposed-
don't know what's going to happen, but don't look at the blast. A whole
and
lot
just
of
get down.
a whole lot of servicemen
Yes.
paid with their bodies and their
Yeah.
lives. Okay.
Yes.
But the point I was making is this: we could have built nuclear weapons.
Mhm.
Truman could have made the decision that, wait a minute, let's see if we can get the Japanese to surrender without doing this. Other people were advising him, no, they're absolute fanatics. They're never going to do this. I get it. But the situation was not that simple.
Mhm.
There were a lot of possibilities. The ones that wanted to use those nukes really bad,
Really
one of them
wanted
was
to.
named Curtis LeMay, had a different view. And they made the case to Truman why he should use them. And it was along these lines. One, we are absolutely going to have to invade Japan. We're going to have to go in there with a full land invasion. There's no way they'll surrender otherwise, which to me is a pretty broad assertion, right?
Yes.
Which it seems extreme, right? Clearly, they weren't going to easily surrender, but the idea that we had to fully invade, and then we're going to lose hundreds of thousands of men, okay? He said that. My understanding from reading a couple of books on the subject, particularly UFOs oh God, what's the name? The Making of the Atomic Bomb by Rhodes. I believe that there were individuals in the military that told Truman, we don't have any more bombs, right? And we can't even make one fast enough, right? And therefore, we've got to use what we have. That was a lie.
Yeah.
They could have made more, right? It wasn't, we're going to run out of nukes. Okay. So that was a lie. And this helped convince Truman, okay, we're going to have to use the nukes. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So you get it. That was standard operational procedure. We got this weapon. We've got to win. We got to get a surrender. We use the nukes, except that's not, these are nukes. These are not normal weapons. So Truman makes that decision.
Mhm.
What if he had made a different decision? Namely, no, we're not going to drop these nukes on civilians in 2 cities, right? We could drop one off the coast to show the kind of power we have to try to help persuade them, or we could take a broader look at the battlefield. The Soviets were starting to move in from the north.
Mhm.
They were clearly coming in, which would have been absolutely, the end for the Japanese. Let's point that out. Let's get some communications going and see if we can bring them to the table without the nukes, and succeeded. Okay. All right. What's the difference? The ETs are watching this happening. They know we've invented nukes. We know we've got them. We've tested them. We didn't drop them, right? We did not drop them on anybody. Okay, fine. Noted. And then as we move forward, right, having not dropped those nukes really changed the course of history in a substantial way.
Yeah.
The ability to avoid a nuclear arms race is going to be a lot better. When we dropped those nukes in the Japanese, the Soviet Union took notice. Okay, if you need to drop nukes on people, you're going to do it. And so by God, we're going to get our own nukes in as fast as possible. Our ability to help negotiate a non-nuclear arms world after that evaporated. Okay. And so it's possible we would have taken a different course, and ultimately the ability to get out from under this nuclear mutual assured destruction nuclear arms race. We could have done it, and the ETs would have followed that. All right. In which case things would have gone a different way. I don't know how exactly it goes a different way. So, but we didn't. We dropped them. And so what the ETs understood now is, one, you've got the weapons, you're going to build the weapons, and you cannot control the ability to use them. And therefore, you're not going to make it. Yeah. We've been around, right? We've been around the block a couple of times. Yeah. We know how this ends. We know how this story ends. And therefore, we have to intervene. And that's what they did. And the question now remains, how far are they willing to take this intervention? Some people would prefer. Is that me? I'm sorry. Hang on.
That's okay.
Sorry. Let me get rid of this. Who is it? Oh, I got to talk to her. No problem. That's my 88-year-old sister. Oh. She hasn't heard from me for a while. She gets very worried. And so how far are they going to take this intervention? As far as it takes, right? No matter what. Again, I don't know, but we don't need to take that risk. Mm-hmm. We do not need to take that risk. But in order to have another way, we've got to have disclosure, right? That opens the possibility for a path that will also succeed, and hopefully it will. So, yeah, that kind of boils it down pretty much.
Well, I'm glad that it does. You know, I really agree with everything that you've said.
You don't have to agree with everything. It's okay.
I'm not that nice. I
wouldn't. Right. Okay.
But I am pretty nice. But
you are pretty nice. Yeah, I'm afraid so.
But, you know, I just think that I'm really glad we had this conversation, because I fully understand where you're coming from. You know, and I'm actually in agreement with, I'm not really sure of anything I'm not in agreement with about what we discussed.
Tell your friends.
I am.
Right.
All
come to my website, right? ParadigmResearchGroup.org.
Mm-hmm. I will. And it'll be included with all of this. But I am just trying to look at a clock there. My eyes aren't very good anymore.
It is.
We're good.
We've been talking for a good while.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this very much. I get a chance to, it gives me a chance to express myself. I'm not at the peak of my eloquence right now because I am really, I'm really exhausted. Well, and I'm also getting old.
Please.
So, but I think one of the principal things that I try to accomplish is to try to find ways to get across how big this is. Okay. I mean, we all know we have to deal with, there's things out there really big, what have you, and we have to deal with them one way or another. War is awfully one of them, absolutely. And there's the environmental destruction and pollution of the oceans. These are all kind of big things. Yeah, fine, and we deal with them. This is bigger than that. This is as big as it gets, and I can appreciate that any just regular person living their lives, trying to make a living and so forth. They're not. It's very hard for them to imagine how big it is, and that they need to. They need to get a sense of how big this is, because everybody's going to be affected by it. Everybody is involved in this. There's nobody that's outside of this, and so that's one of my jobs, to find the words to explain. If you appreciate how huge this is, both in terms of implications historically and the potential down the line in the future, then I've done my job. Because that means it's more likely that you're going to be able to engage it, react to it in a way that will advance it. And particularly in terms of how you deal with your leadership and your politicians and what have you. who always need to be encouraged to do the right thing. You're not going to be able to really do that if you don't have a fundamental appreciation of how large this is and how important it is to you and everybody else. And that's what I do relentlessly.
Well, I have found I have children, I have grandchildren, and I have found as we move into this period of our history that I don't much like it.
Absolutely.
There's so much animosity, and it doesn't matter. We're Americans. We're not parties. We're Americans, and we should be supporting each other. We should be global citizens. We should be, supporting each other.
We need to get there somehow.
And, it's very frustrating because it's hard to see a path to that right now. And I'm hoping that through explaining to people why what you do is important, maybe that will help with perspective, because we're lacking a lot of perspective right now. I think we're confusing other citizens with, we're supposed to be one. And just as humans, we should be working toward understanding and compassion and feeling like we can communicate.
Mhm.
And we're losing the ability as people to communicate.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to listen. We don't want to talk to anybody who differs from us in any way. And, I've been to third world countries. I've been to non-third world countries. It's almost like places that people consider lesser have a much better outlook on life. And it's much different from what I see in my own country right now.
We
need to be a global community to protect against this.
The more populous or the more advanced the countries are, the more they're really under stress and having problems. And the crush of just the mass of people that have now populate the planet.
Yeah.
But we do intellectually kind of know how things could operate well and best, but that's not the same thing as implementing it. And
emotion gets in the way.
We're losing the battle of trying to find ways to exist on this planet as a civilization, as a biosphere. We're losing the way. And it's causing enormous impact on the lives of most people. Though interestingly enough, when they study countries, the poorest countries, where people are just basically focused on just getting by and just kind of hanging in there, and they rely on their neighbors and their family, always have the highest, happiest ratings, because they're not having to address the other stuff. Though eventually it comes for them, okay? In other words, you may be happier than the advanced country, but the advanced country is going to launch the nuclear war that's going to make things really bad for you here. And it's gotten to the point, and I don't want to end on such a negative note,
we'll
but
go
I want
to a positive again.
Yeah, okay. Is that they've been doing lots of studies about families and what people are doing and how their behavior is changing. And one of the things that is emerging, and it's getting mentioned a lot now, is the number of people that are deciding not to have children.
Yes.
Because they think it's probably not fair to those children, because the future world is going to be awful, is growing, right? So they're choosing not to have children. Okay, fine. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, because we have too many people.
Right.
Okay. And there are ways to bring that down in a responsible way without having to get to the point where people are going, I'm just not going to have a kid. There's no way he's going to have a life. No, there are ways to do this where people still have children, and they can have one if they want one, but not 10, right? But whatever. And as a result, this is about as good an indication is if you've got millions of people that have decided the future is so awful, I'm not going to have a kid. Hell, even in ancient times when awful things could happen, they didn't feel that way. Yeah. It's like, you're in Rome in like the year 200 AD and you're sitting around going, I'm not going to have a kid because the whole world is going to collapse and it's awful. No, But we've gotten to that point now.
We have.
And that's interesting. All right. That is the worst kind of birth control you can imagine.
Yeah.
All right. And so again, that is indicative of the fact that, okay, how do we create a world where people have no problem with having children, but also a world where we're conducting that and doing that in a responsible way so that we don't have a planet that's got twice the number of people it can hold, right? The capacity, which is another issue, right? I don't care how noble you are. I don't care how good your attitude is and how much you want to do good. You cram 1,000 people into I don't know, a building that really can hold about maybe 100.
Yeah.
Things are not going to go well.
And
that's what we've done.
And it's not.
And that is a subject, by the way, that I don't bring up much because that is one of these taboo subjects. You can't go there, right? You go there, people are really irritated, right? People have very strong views about that, and it's not critical. But it's back in the background. It is there.
It is there.
Right?
And this is not, I mean, this is trending. It is trending over the last few years.
Mhm.
And, you know, I have a daughter who just married, and hey, Allie, who, you know, she said, well, you know, we're never going to be able to afford a house.
That's one of the versions you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Never be afford a house.
Yeah. And so, you know, and they both work, make good money, comfortable. They have dogs and don't think they're ever going to be able to own a home.
Okay.
So it's very frustrating.
And that's them.
Yeah.
The poor people in this country.
Exactly.
Totally out of the question. So that's not a good thing. All right. That's
No,
not a good
it's
thing.
not.
And that's an example of the fact that we dysfunction. Okay.
Yeah.
But to come to the place where smart people with educations, considering what is going on, taking in the situation, believe that I'm not going to have a child that's going to grow up and be living in the real equivalent of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
All right. Or any of the apocalypse. What it took to get to that point, it's not like this is not an aberration, meaning
No,
I'm a
it's
little
not.
crazy. No. This is smart people are there. If we've gotten to the point where smart people are going there, we got to do something. Absolutely have to do something. And that is what's going on. That is the something that we're doing, is we're going to open up the possibilities, open up to the ET reality and see what's there for us and see what they have in mind for us and also change our worldview about how we're dealing with the planet. And hopefully in not too long a time, people will be going, you know, we were thinking about having a child, my husband and you know, we're really excited about the possibilities. It's possible that our child could end up going to the stars.
Yes.
Or being part of maybe the expansion into the solar system, and they might be living on a moon of Jupiter. Isn't that wonderful? That would be where we'd want to be.
Yeah. And, you know, it's so funny because I sit there and I actually think of things like that. I've seen craft. I know they're out there. I'm not surprised by anything I see moving through my sky. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I'm 64. I really hope that I get a chance to interact with these people.
Yeah,
because,
sure.
you know, but I grew up with Star Trek. And I really believe that that's one of the best indicators of what societies could be. And
it wasn't just sci-fi, it was a political science project.
it was a political science.
Roddenberry was kind of what do they call it?
Visionary.
Yeah, visionary, trying to show how things would be. Now they still had their battles and wars and things were blowing up, but it wasn't at the center of it.
Yeah.
We're not quite ready for that show. Wouldn't have sold well, right?
No.
Right. Everybody's great. We're traveling. No, it's not going to show. But Roddenberry was a pretty significant thing he did, and I think he probably was a contactee. So Pollyanna, ridiculous optimism.
My dad used to call me about it.
Yeah. Then we go to a place within a few years where suddenly the future looks extraordinary and exciting, and people have a pretty much a strong sense that the problems we face can actually be fixed instead of complete hopelessness, right? There's no chance that we're going to be able to get there or do this. Is that possible within a reasonable number of years? I hope so. It's needed. It needs to happen. And so let's cross our fingers and see what happens.
Take it to the stars.
It's been great talking to you.
You too. Thank you.
You're a dear.
You are
And
too.
my regards to your lovely daughter. And if she wants to become a commander in the space fleet down the line, she got my support.
Absolutely. My grandchildren for sure.
Absolutely.
So everybody, thanks. He's got to get out of here. He's going home.
No, I actually get to stay over tonight because I have an early flight, so I'm going to be able to relax and
That's going to be nice for you.
rest up. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. By the way, did you ever look at my hat?
Yes, I did look at
You know
your
what it
hat.
says?
I did see that.
My job is top secret. Even I'd like to buy a couple 100,000 of these and send them to everybody in the military intelligence complex. Right?
My job is,
Yeah.
there we go. My job is top secret. I don't even know what I do.
Exactly.
So,
Like a lot of people.
bye.
So I got to call my sister and make sure she's